Judge insults woman in court, finds out she's related to the mayor. In the courtroom of Judge Samuel Hayes, the air was thick with tension. Known for his stern demeanor and sharp tongue, Judge Hayes ran a tight ship. His courtroom was where the rules were upheld, and he had no patience for disruptions. Most of the people who appeared before him were either familiar faces or individuals who couldn't afford high-priced lawyers. It was a typical day in the courtroom, but little did Judge Hayes know, today would be different. Mia Williams, a quiet woman in her mid-30s, stood before the judge. She was a single mother, struggling to make ends meet, and today, she was in court for a minor traffic violation. She had gotten caught speeding while rushing to pick up her sick child from school. It was a simple case, but Mia knew the consequences could be costly. She didn't have the best lawyer, and she felt nervous as she faced the judge. Judge Hayes glanced over his notes and made a quick judgment. "Miss Williams," he began, his voice dripping with sarcasm, "I'm sure you have 1,000 reasons for breaking the law today. But I'm not here to hear excuses. Maybe if you spent less time speeding and more time paying attention to your responsibilities, you wouldn't be in this mess." Mia flinched, but she didn't say anything. She wasn't used to this kind of treatment, but she had learned to keep her head down in situations like this. What she didn't expect was that today, she would learn that her family connections were about to change everything in that courtroom. The courtroom was a place of order. The judge's gavel echoed loudly, signaling the start of each case. Judge Hayes was notorious for his no-nonsense attitude. His reputation was one of fear, and he made sure that everyone who came before him understood that there was no room for weakness or excuses. Mia, on the other hand, was just trying to get by. She wasn't wealthy or well-known, and she had never been in trouble with the law before. She worked a minimum-wage job at a local diner and tried her best to care for her son. She knew that the judge would probably see her as just another average person who made a mistake. But what Mia didn't know was that her family held a secret that no one in the courtroom could have anticipated. While Mia waited her turn to speak, she noticed that many of the people in the room looked down on her. The lawyer representing her wasn't much help either, barely even making eye contact with her. Mia had grown accustomed to this treatment, having spent most of her life being overlooked and judged by others based on her appearance or her background. But in this case, Mia's life wasn't as simple as it seemed. What Judge Hayes and everyone else didn't know was that Mia was the niece of someone very influential in the city, Mayor Charles Williams. He was a powerful figure in local politics, known for his charitable works and strict policies aimed at improving the community. Mia had kept this information private, believing that it was better to stay out of the spotlight and avoid unnecessary attention. Her uncle, the mayor, had always been supportive of her, but Mia had intentionally kept their family ties out of her everyday life. She didn't want people to think she was using her uncle's position to get ahead. So, she kept quiet about her relationship to the mayor. As the judge continued to berate her, Mia stayed calm, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. She didn't argue, but the more the judge spoke, the more she realized that the man sitting on the bench had no idea who he was dealing with. Judge Hayes was relentless in his criticism. He didn't even pause to allow Mia to explain herself. "This is exactly what's wrong with this city," he continued, shaking his head. "People think they can break the law without consequences. Maybe if you had better role models in your life, we wouldn't have to deal with this kind of nonsense in my courtroom." Mia's face flushed with embarrassment. She wanted to speak up, but the words stuck in her throat. She had never been treated like this in public, let alone in a place where she was supposed to be given a fair chance. It was as though Judge Hayes had already made up his mind about her and was treating her like a criminal before even hearing her side of the story. As the judge continued, his words becoming harsher and more personal, something shifted in Mia. She felt a fire spark inside her, a mixture of anger and determination. She took a deep breath, stood a little taller, and finally spoke. "Judge Hayes," she said, her voice steady but firm. "You don't know who I am, do you?" The courtroom fell silent. All eyes turned to Mia, who now had everyone's attention. The judge raised an eyebrow but said nothing. You don't know that I'm the niece of Mayor Charles Williams, Mia continued, her voice growing stronger. I've kept that part of my life private because I don't want to be judged for who my family is, but I won't sit here and let you insult me based on assumptions. The shock in the room was palpable. The judge's expression changed instantly. He looked down at the paperwork in front of him, then back at Mia, as if trying to process what she had just said. The room was still. No one had expected this turn of events, least of all Judge Hayes. He had assumed that Mia was just another insignificant person in his courtroom, but now the tables had turned. The revelation of Mia's family connection sent a ripple of shock through the courtroom. It wasn't just the judge who was surprised. Everyone in the room had assumed she was just another regular person caught up in a minor traffic violation. But now that they knew she was related to the mayor, everything changed. Judge Hayes paused for a moment, clearly caught off guard. He wasn't used to having his authority challenged, especially not by someone he had already dismissed as just another poor citizen. Mia's calm, composed demeanor surprised him, and he suddenly realized that he had misjudged the entire situation. I didn't know, Judge Hayes finally said, his voice less confident than before. I'm sorry, Miss Williams, I didn't mean to offend you. Mia nodded, her gaze unwavering. She had made her point. She wasn't just some anonymous person that could be pushed around. The room was still buzzing with surprise, and Mia could feel the weight of the moment. But what was truly remarkable was the shift in the dynamic. The judge, who had been so quick to belittle her, was now backpedaling. It was clear that he had underestimated her and, more importantly, misunderstood the significance of her background. The courtroom, once filled with tension, was now filled with whispers. The judge, who had assumed that he held all the power in the room, had learned a very valuable lesson about respect. His authority was not absolute, and he had to answer for his words. After a brief pause, Judge Hayes cleared his throat. Miss Williams, he said, his tone more respectful. I apologize for my earlier comments. I had no idea about your family connection, and I should have treated you with more respect. You're free to go. The fine for your violation will be waived. Mia stood there, still a bit stunned by the abrupt shift in the judge's attitude. It was rare for a judge to admit his mistake in court, and she could tell that this situation had thrown him off guard. He was clearly uncomfortable with the turn of events, but Mia wasn't interested in his apology. What mattered was that she had stood up for herself and made it clear that no one should be dismissed or belittled based on assumptions. As she left the courtroom, Mia felt a sense of empowerment. She had taken control of her situation, and in doing so had made sure that her voice was heard. The lesson she had learned was not just about standing up for herself, but about not allowing others to define her based on their perceptions. Outside the courthouse, Mia made a call to her uncle, the mayor. I just wanted to let you know what happened today, she said. I'm fine, but I think I may have taught the judge a little lesson about respect. Her uncle chuckled on the other end of the line. I'm proud of you, Mia, he said. Sometimes people need a reminder that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, no matter who they are or where they come from. Mia's experience in court was a powerful reminder that assumptions based on appearances or social status can be dangerous. People should never be judged by their background or their current situation, because they may hold qualities, connections, or experiences that others cannot see at first glance. Judge Hayes learned this lesson the hard way. His initial treatment of Mia was based on assumptions about her status, her class, and her worth. But when Mia revealed her connection to the mayor, it completely shifted the way he saw her. This shift wasn't just about power. It was about respect. In that moment, Mia showed the judge that respect cannot be earned by titles or wealth. It's something everyone deserves, no matter where they come from. The story teaches us the importance of treating everyone with dignity, regardless of their background. Everyone has their own story, and their worth is not determined by their appearance, their job, or the people they know. True respect is given freely, without judgment, and without the need for status or power. In the end, the lesson is clear. Never assume that you know someone's story, and always treat people with kindness and respect. You never know when the person you're dismissing might have the power to change your perspective and teach you a lesson about humility and dignity in return.